I feel very positive about this keyboard, honestly. Okay, so first things first, Anaswardini, I'm probably butchering that, but he said, I waited for you to separate those pieces the entire video. So this is for you. There you go, splits apart. This was a little trickier than I thought it would be because this PCB actually connects the two sides together and is mentioned in the videos by Caracorder. It's bolted on there, so like it doesn't come off super easily, but it totally is possible. And honestly, this is probably how I will use it because it's not super comfortable having both halves of the keyboard right next to each other. I posted my first raw impressions video of the Master Forge, and I honestly I didn't know how well that video would be received, but I didn't think it would be all sunshine and rainbows. But there was a little more negativity than I thought there would be. And I would expect that from people who, aren't aware of the Master Forge and maybe just stumbled across that video because, it is a very interesting looking keyboard. So I could see why you might click on the video not having any idea what the Master Forge is. The video really was targeted toward people who are already aware of the Master Forge and have been following its progress. That being said, there's really just like one big disappointment that I personally have with the Master Forge, and that is the fact that it has 3D printed parts. And one of the commenters on that video said that the reason why they went with 3D printing is because the aluminum body, without knowing any of the details of how this is actually put together and manufactured, it makes sense that if you would have to fold and unfold the aluminum body, that would put too much stress on it around the edges and it would break. So I guess I could see the argument for the bottom part of the keyboard being 3D printed. However, the thing that kind of bugs me is that the keycaps themselves are also 3D printed. And I'm realizing that I'm coming across as very negative right now, but I mean, I guess I'm just trying to get this part of the video out of the way because uh, I feel very positive about this keyboard, honestly. And another thing to factor in here is when I bought this, I was one of the early backers, and so I only paid $250 for the keyboard, where if you bought it on Kickstarter, then you would have spent 500 or more dollars, depending on the package that you got. So yeah, if I paid the full $500 for this and I got 3D printed key switches, not key switches, keycaps, then yeah, I would be a little bothered, especially because if you watch the video of the unboxing of the Master Forge on Caracorder's own website, then you look at these keycaps and they totally look like they're mold injected. And so I understand the argument for having this part 3D printed, but not the keycaps themselves. But that aside, I am still actually really intrigued and really interested in this keyboard. Something else that I think came across in the video is that I wasn't liking the device and I wasn't enjoying it. And I mean, you wouldn't be wrong, but as noted by Prototype B, the benefits of this device aren't readily noticeable until you learn to use it. As a longtime user, I don't think anyone will like the device initially because the huge learning curve turns many off. And yeah, like absolutely, I cannot agree anymore. And that is true for any of the keyboards that I have looked at and reviewed. I mean, once you get used to one of these keyboards, then it's pretty easy to switch to other split keyboards, but that initial learning curve is really painful. And I was totally expecting the same thing with the Master Forge. I was kind of hoping that the layout would be easier to learn, but I think I was thinking of the Svalve board that I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it has a layout that is more similar to QWERTY. And so I think I just thought that that might be the same with the Master Forge, which it's not. But also that's probably a really good thing because they probably had to be really thoughtful, or were really thoughtful. I guess they didn't have to be, but I'm sure they were thoughtful about what characters are on each key. Because, for instance, if you have two keys that are very common, then you wouldn't want to have those on the same key because it's a lot quicker and feels more natural to type when you have two characters that are on different keys. And I would think the same goes for common trigrams, where you have three different characters that are very common right next to each other. And it feels good when those keys are on different fingers. At least that's true for like Colmac or Dvorak. Something else that I kept seeing in the comments was it sounded like people interpreted me saying that, you know, when I said my fingers felt scrunched together, like that was a bad thing. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just, it was different. I wasn't used to it. I'm still honestly not used to it, but it wasn't a bad thing. Anyway, so then there were people in the comments who were like this guy Sorvex9, who's just says, "What a bad product." I'm not really sure what to, you know, say to that other than you must not be from around here, and you really cannot be short-sighted when it comes to keyboards like this. Most very successful products, the user experience is so important. But the unfortunate thing is with these keyboards, the user experience, the initial user experience, I would say for like the first couple weeks and maybe in, you know, in some cases months, the user experience is going to be terrible. It's going to be horrible. And it's really about getting that payoff after you learn how to use the keyboard and you become proficient with it. So I mean, that's what I'm hoping to do. That's where I'm hoping to get with this keyboard. I don't know if that will happen, honestly, but like I'm going to give it a shot, and it may take me a while. As I've, you know, mentioned before on this channel, I have my full-time job. This channel barely, you know, makes any money. I definitely cannot live off of this channel by any stretch of the imagination. It's a hobby, and on top of that, I am also a, you know, a husband and father, and I've got my three beautiful children who are young. You know, they take up a lot of my time. So, you know, I can only do so much. So anyways, all that to say, I'm not writing this keyboard off yet. Yes, I am disappointed by not having mold injected keycaps. And honestly, the software, there's some buggy stuff about the software. In that first video, I was struggling with doing chording. And later when I went to the Discord channel, I found that there were other people who were also struggling with the exact same thing. In fact, on the word "the," which is one of the words that I couldn't get to chord. So it turns out that this was, at least at one point, a known bug. And honestly, I don't know if the reason I couldn't get chording to work was because of user error or because of this bug. And honestly, it could have been either, because there was definitely some user error of my own when I was trying to do chording. Some of that was just dumb. Like I was just ignorant. I was an ignorant first-time user, and I was just hoping that, you know, chording would just magically work with any word that I wanted to, but there is a library of words that comes preloaded onto the keyboard, but it's only like 300. Supposedly those 300 words make up like 80% of the words that you use in everyday English. There's some other like strange quirks about this keyboard. Like I was typing on it earlier today, and somehow the command key, because, you know, I was doing this on my MacBook, and the command key was somehow toggled on. And so, you know, if I typed Q, it would like quit the application that I was in, or W would close a browser window, even though I wasn't holding down the command key. And there's some other like odd things, like whenever I plug it in, even though I thought I found, you know, a setting to prevent this from happening, but it's still happening. When I plug it in and it boots up, it types out some stuff, and so I always get this random text that flashes across my screen. And if I don't have my cursor in like a text box or something, then it'll send those key presses to whatever application I currently have active. And sometimes it, you know, makes weird things happen. And just for demonstration purposes, I'll unplug it and then plug it back in, and also show that it has a really long boot up time. And there you go. After several seconds, it finally booted up. But this is one of those things that I hope can, get better with time, because, it is theoretically something that you could solve through software. If I think back to the Dignitify, currently this keyboard is off. Well, I guess maybe it's asleep, but here, I'll turn it off, and then if I turn it back on, it's booted up. And originally, the Dignitify, it took longer than that. It took, it wasn't nearly as long as it takes this keyboard to boot up. But I guess all I'm trying to say is that it's something that I hope will be addressed in the future. So yeah, there's definitely some quirks with this keyboard. And honestly, I wouldn't say that this is ready for prime time. But at the same time, this is a Kickstarter project. So I don't know, like these are things that like I kind of expect. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. If my last video turned you off from this keyboard, then don't get the keyboard. I bet the majority of people who did buy this keyboard, either as an early backer or as part of the official Kickstarter, I would bet that most people are a lot more interested in the promise of this keyboard, being able to type at the speed of thought. That's kind of like their slogan, right? But I'm personally more interested in what the keyboard can do, and I'm willing to give a lot of leeway when it comes to the actual build quality. Okay, so just a little bit of post editing here. I do feel like I need to acknowledge that if you did purchase this keyboard and you're not happy about that, about the 3D printed parts, then that is a totally valid complaint. And yeah, that really sucks. There's kind of a duality of perspectives here, where on one hand, I don't feel like the Master Forge is in a place where I would feel comfortable putting in like an affiliate link into the description of this video or future videos, at least until things are kinks are worked out. And if not mold injected keycaps, at least better clarity on the website and the description of the product of exactly what you're getting when you purchase this. But on the other hand, I think we really should let them cook. And I know full well that it is totally possible that this keyboard, eventually flops, or is just, it never lives up to the expectations and some of the hype around it. If this keyboard does have the potential that I hope it does, then like I want this keyboard to succeed. You should want this keyboard to succeed. And hey, if it takes 3D printing keycaps to get there, I'm okay with that, honestly. Anyway, that is all for this video. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. And yeah, I hope to catch you in the next one.